Welcome back to the Patlon Codes YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to be looking at continuing to use Flask and deploy Flask apps using ngrok for testing purposes. And in today's example, we're also going to be using the chartjs JavaScript library. So here I'm just showing you how I access google-colab. As long as you have a Google account, you can jump straight into using a Jupyter notebook with the environment set up. Doesn't matter whether you're using a Mac or PC or some kind of Linux operating system. You can jump right into using Colab. So yeah, here I am in my Jupyter notebook in google-colab, and I'm just going to give it some title. So Flask Colab chartjs should do the job. I also like to put some notes in here because I'm going to put this down in the description below. May also add some links to any documentation I reference in this tutorial. In these notes. First off, I'm going to make two directories, one called templates and one called static. The templates one we're going to actually use in this tutorial. So we're going to create a HTML template, and we're going to use the render template method in Flask to use that. We're also going to use Ginger templating, which I won't go into heavy detail about, but we'll reference how we use it, and I think it will give you a good baseline example for how you might use it, especially in the context of creating a chart. I'm also creating a static directory. I don't need it in this example. I'm actually going to use CDN, Content Delivery Network, to get the chartjs min.js file, but I could easily just copy it and put it in the static file, and that's often the way people will do. I've seen people do that a lot with Flask apps, and it can be appropriate. But for this example, I'm just going to link directly to the CDN. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to go over the Ginger library by example, but not in great detail. So I'm doing a multi-line comment here to create the HTML file. In a previous video that I've done with a basic example of using Flask, ngrok, and google-colab, I didn't type out the HTML because it was a bit, boring. And you could copy that and repurpose it how you see fit. But in this example, I'm going to write it out because we're actually going to be using JavaScript a fair bit for using chart.js library. And so I'm just giving it a title, of chartjs Flask Colab example. You can call yours whatever you want. Basically, I'm just giving a very minimal example. I'm taking a lot of the defaults that come with chartjs to show how I can create a chart on a Flask app and deploy it very easily. And also the other purpose of this example is to show how I can link that to a pandas dataframe, so I can have that outputted somehow. So so now I'm looking at I'm just looking up where I'm going to get the chartjs CDN file from. I just googled where to get it, and I'm just going to copy the link here for 2.9.0. I'm also going to take you there, and we'll take a look at this is kind of what we're calling on here. And I could put it in that static file, but I'm not going to do that. We're making use of all that code in the content delivery network. And so now I'm going to do a script type equals text JavaScript. And this is where we're going to do the work of actually creating the chart. And also it's important to note that, I'm putting a single line comment in here in JavaScript. Again, if you're not super familiar with JavaScript, I've made it a fairly basic example, and I've also trying to put the emphasis on how I'm using Python in here. So, if you've never used JavaScript, don't worry. This is fairly basic, and we're not doing too much really with it. Feel free to copy this. There are more extensive examples, definitely on the chartjs documentation, but main purpose here again is to sort of link this with Python and how we're gonna pass values to create this just a simple chart. And I'm going to do a line chart. By the way, also should mention that setting the chart defaults to false just stops it from being super big, because I think it will. I think when I've not done that, it's filled the page and ignored my ignored the height I set in the HTML canvas tag. Here I'm using Ginger templating, and I'm doing like a for loop inside the Ginger template, and I'm going to take that value labels that I just highlighted, and that's going to be passed from the render template method in Flask. I'm going to pass some value from my pandas data frame to that. I'm going to pass some object. It's going to be more than one value. It's actually going to be a Python list that is working as a JavaScript array in chartjs. So that's how I'm getting my labels. That's how I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing the same thing here for the data set. So again, this funny looking percent for I in labels, and then the N4 when you close that for loop is the Ginger templating. Lots of great documentation on it, and it's very commonly used in Flask. Certainly, I plan to do another example where, not in this video, but where I use the where you can use macros to stop having to rewrite code over and over again, and you can call on other templates as well using include. So I plan to do some more subsequent tutorials on Ginger templating and the relationship with Flask. But for now, I'm just focusing on getting some data into this chart using the chartjs library. There's a lot of good JavaScript libraries. Obviously, if you've heard of any, maybe D3.js or Canvas.js. There's a bunch. The cool thing about chartjs is it's totally free to use. A simple example like this, where I'm basically setting all the defaults. I haven't done any of the options like taking the color or so on. Here I'm making sure my chart that I've called my chart is linked to the canvas tag, which is an HTML tag that's used to sort of draw graphics on the fly, with scripting, and in this case JavaScript. So basically here I'm like I said, I'm accepting the defaults of chartjs. I've gone fairly minimal, but there's a lot of different things you can do, and obviously you can do other types of charts on I'm just showing a simple line chart, and I plan to use the US unemployment rate data to show that in 2020 over the year. So now we're closing out the script tag. I didn't actually use a body tag, so I'll just close out the head and HTML. And now we're actually going to have to end our multi-line string in Python, and we're going to write this out to an HTML file. And yeah, this is going to go in our templates directory that we created at the beginning. I'm also going to use the W option so that we write, but we don't, but we overwrite each time we run this, so there's no issues. And now I'm going to close it and run it. And oh, there's a problem. So yeah, I spelled templates wrong. So now we should see it in our templates directory, and there it is. Cool. So next step, I'm going to get some data. And that data, like I mentioned, I'm going to be using the US unemployment rate, and I'm going to take that. I'm going to get that from the pandas data reader library. And I've done several examples in that on the past. You can see on my channel, mainly using them to output, to just get test data to put into Excel files or PDF files. So I'm just going to use the pandas data reader library, and this is going to be the data that, obviously, like I mentioned, we're going to be passing to using the render template method. We're going to be passing this data to our graph. And so, the arguments here, the second one is of note, is the Federal Reserve Economic Database, which is FRED, which is, you can use different sources for pandas data reader. Yahoo and Google APIs used to be a really good source, but now they can't be used with pandas data reader. I think maybe Yahoo even closed their API. They used to have a really good finance API that had lots of like stock data. I don't think it even works, but FRED, as the Federal Reserve Economic Database, at least in the United States, as a government source of data, they're still very useful for getting economic statistics. So here I just use the print function to make sure that my data frame got created. And that's just 12 rows this year, or it's not even that because we don't have November or December data at the time I'm running this program. So now we're ready to actually do some stuff with Flask. Just very straightforward. Going to be creating a Flask app. And I do have to use the pip install Flask ngrok. And so, we're going to be deploying this Flask app to ngrok.io. So we can, we could do this on a local host and look at it ourselves, but, it's useful to just test it with ngrok, and you can see it on a subdomain of ngrok, and it's, it's a public website. As long as you're running this, once you stop this, then it, is no longer at that URL. But it's a useful tool just for testing code. And so, you may be thinking, why are we, running with ngrok? But, it's just a useful way to look at it on a public URL. Make sure everything in your app is working as you desire. And it should be, at least in this instance. And so now I'm making my legend object that's I'm going to be passing using the render template method. And now with the u_rate, I'm creating a list using the toList. I'm taking my dataframe column and making it into a list for u_rate and months. And then we're going to, using the render template method, pass that to become a JavaScript array, which is what the chartjs is expecting for the data that's being used for the chart. And so yeah, I'm just about all set to run this now. And yeah, again, these are these are where the lists I just created are going to go. So yeah, now let's run the Flask app and go check it out. The ngrok subdomain that's provided below. Yeah, so we have it on our local host, but we're going to go check it out. Yeah, it's a little bigger than I wanted. I probably set the height too high. We can go fix that in the HTML canvas tag. Just need to stop Flask from running. So yeah, let's go here and fix the height in the canvas tag. Rerun, creating the template. Don't need to rerun downloading the data, but let's rerun checking it out at the ngrok subdomain. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, this is what we're looking for. So here we've got the US unemployment rate, and we have things like tooltips as our default, nicely set. It's filled in. You can choose to have that or not. But we have a nice little chart, and we really didn't do too much work to get that. So yeah, again, in this video, we use the chartjs library, google-colab, and Flask. And there are some Python libraries like Dash that can do a lot of this built in a much easier way. But, also getting to know chartjs is useful because you can customize it as much as you need to. So yeah, hopefully this was a useful tutorial. I plan to do some others where I use Ginger templating in more extensive fashion. So yeah, submit your comments below or questions, and feel free to like, and see you in the next video.